Jesus in disguise, Jehovah passing by, the burden of a tear hanging in your eye. Jesus in disguise, a scar across the sky. You were looking for a king you would never recognize. Jesus in disguise.
Good evening. Hope none of you are visualizing that picture you just saw of me a few minutes ago. I apologize for that. But as we come together tonight to hear about our trip to Haiti, let us begin our time together with a word of prayer. So let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for just this night we have to share the work that you're doing in Haiti, the work that you allowed us to take part in. And God, we just pray that you bless this time, Lord, that we hear in this report, God, your voice calling us to continue the work of your kingdom in this place and around the world. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
The team that went to Haiti, a few of us are not here tonight, but those that are here, we're going to share a little bit. We have so many pictures and so many stories. We will never be able to share everything that we did, but we're just going to try and give a snippet of what we did. So we hit the arrow. So this is the island that we went to. The whole island is called Hispaniola, and most of you remember last summer, Nikki and I went to the Dominican Republic, and we were down here. And so this year, when we went to Haiti, the opposite side of the island, we went to Port-au-Prince, which is the capital. So we were mostly in the city the entire trip. There was a little bit of the trip where we went to the northern coast to an area called Maui on Saturday while we were there. Okay, someone that was supposed to talk about this is not here, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. The Christian Light School is the school where my sister is working. Most of you remember that she came in January and gave her spiel about what she's doing there. And so she moved. We went with her on June 5th. Our team went with her and left her there. Somehow she didn't make it into any of the pictures. She's like doing her own thing. When she's there, it's like she's home. And so when she got there, you can just ask anybody. She kind of just, there she goes, she's there, you know, and we didn't really see that much of her, I guess. But the Christian Light School is there in Port-au-Prince, is where she's teaching biology, and it's a school and a children's home. There are about 35, 36 children that live there, and then a total of around 300 students that attend the school there. And so these are just a couple of pictures. That's where we stayed and did a lot of our ministry. They have, rooms for missionaries to come in and stay. That's where we stayed. And we're at the majority of the time. Ideally, they would have cooked the meals for us. That's how it's supposed to work out. There's an illness going around right now in Haiti and a lot of Caribbean countries called chikungunya. You can ask Nikki about it. She had it after she got back. But several of the students, the workers that were there, they had it. And so we had to cook our own food most of the days we were there. And we just kind of had to be flexible and do a lot of things that we weren't planning on doing. But that was like the number one thing that we talked about. We had a lot of meetings prior to our trip, and the number one thing we talked about was being flexible, and our team was extremely flexible. What now? What is? Christy did that a lot to a lot of kids, and they would say, no, and then as soon as you put them down here, they would say, again. And this little guy here on the right, his name is John Wilson. He had just turned a year old. A couple of days before Thanksgiving, his mom had brought him. I wish I had pulled the picture of the day that he was brought to the school. You could just see his rib cage just completely malnourished. They said he was probably about 3 days away from death. And his mom, she would leave him on the bed, which there, wherever it was probably just like laying on the floor, like on a little mat. She would leave him there to go to work, try and, make some money to support him. And it just wasn't happening. And when she was no longer able to feed him, to breastfeed him, she had no way to feed him. And so she had heard about the school. She brought him there. They don't take in babies. That's not something that they do there. But when they saw him, they couldn't say no to him. And so they took him in, and actually the missionaries that kind of took him under their wing and were keeping him, caring for him, they had just returned to the States the Monday before we came because the lady is expecting, and so she's coming back home to have their baby. So we didn't even get to meet them. But kind of just everybody takes care of him, and you'll see him in quite a few pictures. Just go ahead. So that's just a picture of, at the school, there's like a courtyard, and then it has 2 different levels. On the second level is where the kitchen is, and some classrooms that we worked in, and that's where there was a kind of open area for the men to do construction. And then the 3rd floor is where the rooms that we stayed in were at. And then that's just, a lot of times we had a lot of time to just hang out with the children, and we spent a lot of time just reading books with them, just playing soccer with them, just doing, just whatever the kids wanted to do, we would do it with them. We had a lot of time. The first day we were there, we left on a Thursday, and then that Friday we were supposed to go to a special needs infant orphanage and do some work with them. But many of the kids at that orphanage had the chikungunya, and so we weren't allowed to go. So that whole Friday we kind of just had to make up something to do. So we kind of just played with the kids and did like projects around the place. The teachers at the school, every morning before they start their school day, they have a devotion time, and so we were able to attend that on Friday morning. And so they sing praise music similar to what would be sung at maybe not at our church, but at a church that does more contemporary style of worship. They sang the same songs that we would sing there, and they sang them in English and in Creole. And then the guy on the right, Richard, he teaches Bible at the school, and so he leads the teachers in a devotion every day. And it was pretty good. And that's just the dog. I just put the picture of the dog in there because I think the kids would probably like to see it. And Christy was talking about it, that they had 3 dogs, and normally in Haiti you don't touch the dogs because they're, nasty. Not like, a stray dog here, you might touch them or might not, but there, the dogs on the street, you do not touch them. You just don't. But those dogs are their pets, and it's just like, us having a dog. Yeah, Snoopy, and then behind him is Shep, and then I don't think a picture of Sam made it in there. But Sam was 4 months old, but bigger than both of those dogs. He's what kind of dog was he? Mastiff, so he's going to be pretty big. And then that with Kevin's, and he's 5-year-old, one of the children that live there at the school. Okay, does one of y'all want to talk about this? Elise was supposed to talk about this, but she's not here. Does anybody want to talk about the new children's home? Okay, I'll do it too. The children at the orphanage, they lost their home in a flood. Then they lost their home 3 different times. I can't remember exactly what all. It was a flood, the earthquake, and there was one other. Was there another flood? Another flood. So these children have been homeless 3 times already. And now they're living at the school. Well, the school was never intended to be a place for children to live. So they're kind of crammed in these rooms. I don't think we got any pictures of it, but they're just kind of crammed in with these bunk beds, and it's not ideal. But they've found this house. Compared to where they're staying now, this house is going to be a major upgrade, I think. And they allowed us to go and tour it. They might even be living there by now. It's going to be pretty soon if they're not already there. But they're just going to be renting this, and then there's property that's nearby that they're trying to purchase. So they're in the process of purchasing that. So it's been an ordeal to try and get land for the children's home. So that's something that you can pray about. That's just pictures of it. Okay, Allie, or Lori, or both of y'all, somebody talk about baby feeders.
I went ahead and wrote some things out because I'll get up here and start crying. I don't know how many pictures I have either, but to apply for the baby feeder program, you have to be 3 years or younger, because at that point in time, after you turn the age of 4, you start going to the Christian Light School and you eat there and things. So the program, the baby feeders, was only for 3-year-olds or younger, and depending upon your age, for the newborns, they just receive vitamins and things like that. But for most of the children, they had to bring a plate from their home. Some of those plates were Tupperware tops. We even saw like stove tops that people were bringing for their kids for them to get all the things. The menu that they had, my phone just locked up. Hang on. But that baby feeder program, it was the most impactful thing for me. And it was actually the very first thing that I ever took part in Haiti. Travel day was Thursday, and then we played with the kids Thursday night. But Friday morning, we got up, and a small group of us went with the baby feeders. So this was the very first thing that I actually did for these people. And I cried the entire time kind of thing. But I thought I knew what poor was. Like, I thought I understood what it meant to have nothing. And I don't know if Allison's here, she's going to say this, but Allison said we were looking out of the plane as we flew, and we were looking at all the houses in Florida. We're comparing houses, and that's a nice house, and this is a nice house. And then we're flying into Haiti, and we're seeing these huts that are piled on top of each other, and we're seeing what they call tent cities and everything. But there are 3 men that are associated with the Christian Light School that go, and they have the same menu, but it's probably the only meal these kids get on a Monday through Friday thing, and they get fed once a day, Monday through Friday, and probably not again, depending upon the wealth of their family. But they get half of a boiled egg, they get a sliced mango, 1 scoop of peanut butter, and a piece of very flat bread. And there was one little boy, and he had his plate ready, and it was a smaller plate, but he had it there, and we gave him the half-boiled egg, and he started to walk away like he was content with half of a boiled egg. That was fun enough for him. But, we were like, come back, we have more for you. And it was kind of one of those things, we didn't go to actually feed them. We went to just kind of walk with the men who knew what they were doing, and we were just kind of along to kind of see what was happening. But the route to get there was what was so impactful, I guess. I don't know if you have any pictures of the ravine. This is the ravine that you have to walk through to get to the majority of the children. As you can see, it's a creek bed, but there's absolutely no fresh water there. And the second group that came back on Tuesday after they had fed the children, they said it was so hot that day one of the children was walking with them, and he was so hot that he went down and got in that sewage water to cool his feet off because he was so hot. You see animals, and you see people digging through it, trying to find. There was one man there that was digging through there to try to find concrete to give to people that they could use to aid in the structure of their homes. But you had to walk through this. The Haitian people, they walk very fast, so you had to keep up with them. But Katie was with us, and she's an American, and she kind of hung with us and kind of said, step here, then jump here. So you cross this ravine, and you can see those terrible conditions. But those blocks that you see, those are individual people's homes, and there's probably at least 4 people living in each, wouldn't you say, easily 4. But you're walking through these alleyways, and you're just stopping at random houses, and they know, these kids know, they have their plate ready, they know what time they come, and they come to get their food, and we cross here from rock to rock. But that's a place I never thought I'd ever see. And pictures don't do it justice, but, it does a pretty good job of explaining it. But I just want to thank you for allowing us to go and be able to be the hands and feet of Jesus and to be with these people for a very short period of time. Do you have any more pictures that I need to walk through? Oh, that's the church. This church is actually at a dead end of one of the alleys, and you're walking, you're going through these houses, and you're stopping, and then all of a sudden you end up here, and this is where one of the churches where they worship, and you can see their pews that they have. But those 2 gentlemen in the front, those are the 2 men that work with the Christian Light School, and they have like 10-gallon buckets, and that's what they're carrying the food in. So they stop and get out the mango, get out the bread, and then they distribute it from there. Yeah. This is us.
Okay. So that was what we did. Some of us did on Friday. Then on Saturday, the whole group of us went. That's when we went to Maui. On the way, we stopped at what is essentially like a homeless shelter, but not what you think of as a homeless shelter. It's just a building that some homeless people live in. This is where we stopped. This guy that you can't see, his name is Pierre, and he's actually a Haitian American. He's from Dothan and has a nonprofit called Give Us Hope. And so his wife is a teacher. When she's not teaching, they are living in Haiti. And so we got connected through them, through my sister again. And so we went to their mission. But anyways, on the way we stopped here. And just to pass out some of the bubbles and the things that you guys donated or that we bought with your monetary donations, we took a lot of bags there to donate toiletries and the different toys and different things. But when we got in there, I think this was maybe like their church or kind of like their meeting room in the building. And there was just a lot of kids and just a lot of talking going on, and we were just kind of all standing back. It was getting very loud very quickly, and it seemed to us that there was a major argument going on. That's what I felt like. I never felt threatened. I never felt scared at any point on the entire trip. But just at this moment, it just seemed really loud and really, we didn't know what they were saying. Turns out they were actually very happy that we were there, and I said, oh, their happy is a lot different than my happy. Because it was very kind of intense, but they were just really happy about that they saw all the donations that we had and everything. And Chris prayed with them, and then it's hard to see this lady. She was kind of a lighter-skinned lady. I think she was kind of in charge of the group. We gave everything to her, and then she was going to ration it out. We did give all of the kids at least one item, like a bracelet or a thing of bubbles or a stuffed animal. Every child got at least one thing. And then the toiletries we gave to her, and so she said that it would have been really bad if we just started passing out, toiletries. The adults in the room would have kind of created some turmoil. So that was just kind of like a real quick stop. We were only there for maybe 10 minutes. And then we went to, that's just more pictures there while we're handing stuff out. And it's just a little girl right outside of it. You would see a lot of people just selling things on the street, even little children like that. Okay, do you want to talk about that?
Oh, I can. This is the place the Give Us Hope mission site, and it was really pretty on the back side. The Caribbean was right there. It was a really pretty place, and like once you got there, it was like a gated little community. Well, yeah, it had a gate, and you like walked in, and there was like palm trees like lined up, and there was a very nice little house where the missionaries stayed. But
It kind of felt like a resort compared to
Yeah.
the rest of Haiti. And
okay, then like once we got there, we kind of left from there and we walked around the kind of their community and streets and kind of just collected some children with us to bring back because we were going to feed them later. So we were kind of just telling them what was going on, and we just like held their hands and walked with them, and we ended up stopping at their school, and we just played with them there. And I couldn't talk to any of them, but we just held their hands and walked with them, and you'd have like 3 kids hold your hand at one time. So these were the ladies who were preparing the meal that we purchased to feed the kids, and we ended up having like rice and beans, and then like this chicken soup stuff. It had like vegetables in it, and they put it on top of their rice, but that was them preparing it for us. Okay, this is just some of the kids we were playing with again, and then the people in the yellow shirts, those are the people from the Give Us Hope Mission House. And I think this is at like right when we got to the mission, back when we brought the kids into the mission house before we played with them. Okay, right now okay, I think Amy is playing with the kids because we did like frisbee activities. We kicked around the ball, painted some faces, painted nails. You know, we just did a lot of activities with those children. And then once the food was ready, they would sit in little clusters of around 50 or so, and then like we'd feed them in their clusters. But they were very patient. They sat quietly, and then one time we like ran out of a pot of beans and rice, and like before we could get another pot, it like took a while. But like those kids never got out of their circle. They just stayed like they wanted it. Like they were just so nice and patient, waiting for their food.
And some of the kids, somebody told us that one boy, this was kind of close to a mountain region, but in Haiti there's mountains kind of everywhere. And so this one boy walked, I don't know how old he was, but he had walked 15 miles to come and eat rice, beans, and a tiny little bit of chicken, not even like a whole chicken leg. He had walked 15 miles. And so, just for that. And really we don't have any pictures or videos to do what we did on Saturday any kind of justice because there were so many kids like all at one time, and it got overwhelming very fast. And we were just, I don't know, at one point I was just like counting backwards from 10 and just trying to like think of what was happening. I was painting nails and painting some girls' nails, and they were still in the nail polish and still in the cotton balls, and it was just crazy. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And I couldn't talk to anyone. I was like, does anyone speak English? And like, no one did. But then there was this, I don't think I have a picture of him, this boy named Jacob. And I don't know how old Jacob was, probably like 12 or 13. But he lived in this community, and my sister met him back in December. He apparently, whenever these groups come in, he speaks English very well. And so he kind of, even as a 12-year-old, he takes on the role of a translator. And so every now and then he would come over and say, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And he would go, and he would come back, and one time he was like, I need you to get finished. I was like, because they're just lined up waiting to get their fingernails painted. I'm like, okay. But it got overwhelming, so none of us really were able to take pictures or videos because it was like all hands on deck. And so we didn't have, it just kind of looked like they're sitting there, but they weren't just sitting there the whole time by any means. Did anybody else want to say anything else about Saturday? That we fed, and then what they said was after we left that more would get there because more were walking down the mountain or more were on their way. I know that on Facebook they posted that, something about thank you to FBC Williams, that we fed 750 children. So I don't know if 250 more came later on, but I don't think there were 750 there at that moment. But they did tell us that more would come. So. Oh my goodness.
This was paradise compared to where they came from.
And a lot of these kids, even though, I mean, the ocean is right there, they may live a mile from the ocean and they've never seen it. And see, we, at the mission house, this is the front part, and then the house is behind all of this, and then behind the house is the ocean. Well, we couldn't take them behind the house because they said the kids, they're not used to the ocean, they might drown, we don't know, it's just not safe. So we just we had to make sure that they stayed in the front, on the grass. So Saturday was like my favorite part of the whole trip was Saturday, doing this project. So. Uh-huh.
Saturday is when some of us tried to jump rope too.
Yes.
Some of us found out we don't jump rope.
And I missed all of that because I was, again, I didn't know what anyone else was doing. I honestly have no clue what anyone else did. I painted fingernails. If they want to tell you what they did, they can tell you whenever they come up. But what did you do?
I painted faces. I painted a kid's stomach at one time. I was just like, whatever they threw at me, they were like, I don't even. So they couldn't even tell you what they wanted on them. So it was like you just kind of painted a random item on them, and just kind of like.
And Amy got painted.
Yeah.
He said, I love you while he's painting it. He's trying to paint.
Yeah, that was what you told me. On Sunday, we went to Pastor Lenny's church, and we had the option of going to the American church or going to the Haitian church, and we decided to go to the Haitian church because we kind of wanted that experience. And we had hoped that the kids were going to go with us that day, but they had so many kids that were sick, and the people that were taking care of the kids were sick, so they weren't able to get them dressed and ready to go. But it ended up being okay because that way we got to ride in the truck that day, and we didn't have to walk 15 to 20 minutes to get there. And the guy that drove us, his name is Edmund, and he would he's Haitian, and he would come and take us different places in the truck. And he drove us there, and when we got there, we were like, thank you so much for driving us. He said, you have been really wet. So he kept doing this like we would have sweated while we were on our way there. So that was a blessing that Edmund drove us that day. But as soon as we got out of the truck, the kids were running up to us and grabbing our hands and pulling us into the church. They were so excited to see us there. And being the only white people in that area, they just cling to you when you show up anywhere. Everybody comes looking at you, and you're kind of on display, I guess, when you're walking through, because they just all want to touch you and hold your hand and all of that. And so they did exactly that when we got to the church. We stood in the courtyard for a few minutes before church started, and they were so excited that we were there. The pastor's son ran through with like a silk poinsettia, and I guess he thought that they needed flowers since they had the white people there that day. And so he came through running with the poinsettia plant, and he put it on the table, and so that was really sweet. When we got in there, Pastor Lenny stood up at the church, and Pastor Lenny is Filipino, and he doesn't speak very good Creole. So during his sermon, the people correct him while he is speaking. So it's kind of odd because while he's talking, the people are talking, telling him what he needs to be saying or that he didn't say something right. So it's a little bit different experience, but he introduced us as the white people and asked Chris to tell everybody where we were from, and then we all had to stand up, and each one of us had to tell what our name was. So they were really sweet and excited that we were there. The church service was much like an American church service like we would have here. The pastor came up and they did announcements, and then they had a little song service, and we were so excited because the first song that they sang, they started playing it, and of course they weren't singing it in English, but it was Blessed Assurance, so we were able to sing along with them. But that was the only song that we knew, so it was short-lived. But then while we were there, they had their associate pastor was preaching that Sunday, but we had a guy that turned around and was willing to interpret for us. So there was a lot going on. A lot of the people who live in Haiti are deaf because they've had ear infections and things like that and weren't treated. So they had about 30 people sitting in front of us, and they had somebody doing sign language for them. And then we had the translator here on the right that was turned around talking to us, telling us what was going on. So there was a lot going on during the church service, but it was a great experience. It lasted probably about 2 hours, I think. So it was a long church service, but it was just really nice. And like I said, they were very excited. The pastor's wife met us at the back door when we were on our way out. And it was just a real treat for us to have that time to go in and sit down and share that church service with them.
Since I'm the pastor, I'm going to say something about the church too. This is the Haitian Roy Barker. That's the guy who led our music that morning. This is Pastor Lenny. He's trying to talk me into coming back to teach a Bible conference in this picture, I think. I'm not doing that, by the way. But yeah, Candace mentioned the pastor's son. And before he came, everybody saw him with the flowers. I think Amy and I saw him before. He was strutting, y'all. He's like, I'm the pastor's kid. I mean, he was like, it was crazy. But it was a good church service. And I thought, since I'm up here, I don't think we have any pictures of kind of what I did during the week. So is it okay for me just to give everybody a synopsis? The first day, because we're going to talk about construction projects next. The first day that all of us men loaded up, went to the hardware store and got back, David Gunner, who was kind of like the guy there from Piedmont, kind of helping us out, just goes, hey, any of y'all know anything about water pumps? And I think Wendell said, Chris does. And, yeah. And so I spent the entire week, there are no pictures, because David would just like say, Chris, we got to go over here. You might see some pictures of at the Christian Light School, but at every house that had it, you may, if you were here, you might have seen in the sort of slideshow a truck with these hoses pumping water into these cisterns. They have these just holes in the ground where they pump their water, and people come by and dump water in it. And they pay, I think, was it $500 a week for water or something when there are groups at the home. And what it does is there's a pump, a jet pump, connected to the cistern that pumps the water up to the roof to these plastic 300 or 600 gallon tanks, and then the water goes from those tanks through a filtration system, and it's injected with, or it's treated with ozone and all this other stuff to kill everything, and then back up to the roof for filtered water. And it apparently, right before we got there, these water pumps worked fine in Haiti, and then as soon as we got there, all of them started to break. And so I think I'm certified in Haitian water pump repair now. And because the Christian Light Schools broke like right when we got there, and I mean they really didn't know we weren't going to have water to shower one night, and if we didn't have water to shower, we weren't having to drink the next day. And so I guess necessity just is the genesis of genius. I don't know, and you just figured it out. And then there's another place where David and I went where there's a woman. I think her name was Patricia, and she's starting a home for abused women just down the road from the Christian Light School. And their pump was shot. It was gone. And I don't know how Haitians do plumbing, but it's crazy. Like, you have to cut stuff out and put it back together. And so we put a water pump in her home. And then one day, one of the guys, I don't know if we have pictures of him, his name is Josh. He's moved there to be like the bookkeeper for the Christian Light School. And he wanted to buy a car. And Ashley, my sister-in-law, told him, oh, Chris used to be a mechanic. He should go with you. And so one day, Josh comes while I'm helping Wendell, and the guy says, hey, if you got a minute, we're going to go. By the way, in Haiti, if they say, if you got a minute, they meant, do you have a month? Because, and so I went with Josh and our driver, Edmund, and it's the side of the road right before the major highway, and Edmund just drops me off and leaves me there with Josh, who's buying the car. And at some point, the guy showing up, selling the car, hands me the keys and opens the door and says, drive? And we haven't talked about that, but in Haiti, it's crazy. I mean, it's just get out of the way. The horns are a different octave, like beep, beep. You just get out of the way when you're driving. And so, but like Sally said, I was never worried about my well-being. I mean, I was standing on the side of the road in Haiti next to a guy selling bootleg DVDs of Godzilla. Another lady who was frying chicken legs, and another lady selling charcoal. And across the street, I don't know what they were doing, but it was just one of those things. I was never worried. I think when we were leaving, a lot of you may have been concerned, like they're going to go off to this country where we've heard about people getting kidnapped. Like I was never, and it may be because I'm huge for a Haitian, but I was never concerned about any of that. And so, anyhow, I figured out while I'm sitting here running my mouth about church, I would just tell you kind of what I did, because you probably won't see me and you'll think, well, that preacher went off and did nothing. And so, but that's what I was doing. So, what's the next thing?
He's being generous. That's not true. You see, now one David, of course, I don't know what, I think him and Gene had an anniversary tonight. I think that's the reason he wasn't here. And Chris, yes, he did fix water pumps, but he helped us the whole time we were there too. I guess the first thing is be totally different from anywhere in this country, and I don't know, Bob may know more than I do, going to other countries. The one thing in Haiti, like we built cabinets, we built shelves, bookshelves for the library. Some of the teachers would come, some of them we repaired. They would want it to where they could close up and keep their books dry and from all the dust. I mean, you can't really tell it in these pictures, but there's pretty much a cloud of dust swirling in the air all around. If it's not dust, it's smoke. The pictures really, and some of you may talk about that, don't do a whole lot of justice there, but that's what a lot of the things we were doing. You see that most everything we done was out of this plywood, and it's kind of a funny story. The first morning let's see, that would have been on Friday. The women their day sort of got shuffled around, canceled, but we had already set up to go over with David, which he was our driver, our chauffeur, everything. And you see the old blue truck. If we went anywhere or hauled anything, we had to go in the old blue truck. Now it would take about, Jim, 20 minutes to get over there. Probably wouldn't, but about 5 blocks. Really, maybe 5 or 6 blocks from where we were staying. But
You saw some of these paved streets in the picture that we went down through and up and around.
But we told David what we were going to do. We were going to get this many sheets of plywood and this so much stuff to face them out and everything to do the shelves. And he was telling us the whole time, it's going to be high. This stuff, this plywood and all comes in, and everything's going to be a lot higher than it is probably what you're used to. So I already had in my head, I'm thinking, this stuff may be $70, $80 a sheet when we get over there. And anyway, we had to go tell the couple of guys came out there with us. We had to tell them, okay, we're thinking about getting this here and this over here. And they had to go write it down and they figure it, and they give you a price. Well, David showed it to me and it said $3,845. And I thought, I knew, and I said, man, I knew it was going to be high, but I didn't think it was going to be that high. And I thought, well, what choice have we got? It turned out it was 3,845 yeeds, or how am I saying it right? Goods or geeds. Turned out it was less than $30 a sheet. And as you can see, believe it or not, this was a finished 3/4 plywood, which around here would be like equivalent to birch plywood, which here is $55, $60 a sheet. The old CD plywood, like you would cover the outside of the house, cost more than the 3/4 finished plywood. It's kind of weird. But that's pretty much what we done the Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. We went back one other time to the building material store, and if you'll look around the school, when we'd come out, they had a rail outside each of our doors where we'd stay. Well, there wasn't nowhere to sit, and even the kids on the different levels, there was nowhere to sit. And I said, they had some real nice, rough 1x12 pine, and I seen when we went over there the first time. I told Dad, I said, we thinking about going back and getting some of those boards and cutting them in half and making benches to scatter around out in front of the rooms. I don't know if there's any pictures of them, but even out in front of where the missionaries that come and would have a place to sit and in the afternoons. And I know some others probably talk about on top of all the school where we stayed in our rooms, there was kind of like would you call it a patio or with a covered top on the 4th floor of it. There was some little chairs, it's like kindergarten chairs. I mean, it was the little bitty ones to sit. So we made we carried 5 or 6 benches up there. It's enough for all of us to sit and for anyone else that wants to use it. And in the evenings, that was a special time to get to go up there on that rooftop. And where it's like you could see that, I don't know how much, but it looked like we were overlooking the whole country of Haiti from that rooftop. And let's see. Well, I told you that everything there, if we did decide whenever, I don't know how many will be going, but I know I want to go back. But if we go back and we plan some kind of building there at that school or any kind of construction job, we'll have to get our bricklaying trials or more, because everything everything's mortar. It's concrete, and it's made they make their concrete with chert. I mean, you can't really tell here, but I could probably get by with being a block layer down there, because most of the joints with the block laying, they're anywhere from this wide to this wide. So it's kind of rough, but it looks good when they get done with it.
You know, I was just a visitor, but I'd like to talk in a little different train. But I'd like to say that I thank the church first I'd like to say I thank God for giving us the health to go, and then for the church for supporting us and praying for us and letting us go, and then thankful that we could go and do what we did. I'm going to talk about the building because I didn't do a whole lot about that. I just stood there and done some sanding and so forth. You know this, and I don't know how this might fit in, Sally, but this is what I want to talk about. This lady that is down there is named Sherry. She saw a need down there with all of this that the girls have talked about, and she went down there, and I know that God called her down there. That had to happen that way. But she's down there doing her work, and if you see these things that these people live and the way they have to live and conditions they have to live in, to me, the only way this can be changed in that country is for somebody like her and other people like her to go in there with a faith-based message and raise up a group of people to grow up and to change those people's way of thinking and way of living and do something for their form of government, the way things are done. There's a group of people down there that won't ever get out of that unless something is done. And people like her, with the help from people like us, can do that. And she is taking the rest of her life, I'm going to say. She went down there in 2000 and started this, and she was a teacher in Florida for 21 years, but she's down there now doing this, and I know she is being well paid by her rich papa, as she called him. And I know there's a way that we can do something to help her, and I hope in the future, like Wendell mentioned there, it may not be going back to build something on my part, but there's a way we can support that situation down there. I know there's a way that we can support that. And if you could see this one little baby that we talked about that came up, that was, they saved that baby's life. There's no doubt but what they saved that baby's life. And others, it's the same way. But I'm through my building years. I can't, that's not for me anymore, but there's other things that me and people like me can do. And I'm going to say that I hope in the near future that something will come along that we can do something to help that. And I want to say, Wendell, I enjoyed being there with you and David and, of course, Chris. And I enjoyed it, and, of course, the girls. And when we was toting the food to the kids, some of them met me and cared, so I didn't have to walk so far. But, you know, I appreciate all of that. Of course, I can probably have carried it if I had to. But one other thing I want to say about jump roping. Of course, you know, out there on the grass, and like Sally said, it was just wild out there that day, because there was kids everywhere, and they was all over you, and so forth and so on. But then we started passing out things, and there was some jump ropes in there. So Wendell and I, we got one, and we were, you know, letting the kids jump. But they didn't do things one at a time. It was all, but anyway, we jump roped, and then Wendell and I decided we'd jump rope. We got some of the kids to jump the rope, you know, to swing it for us. And I don't jump rope no more. But again, I want to thank the church for supporting us, praying for us, and being with us, even though we wasn't all there. But as a whole, we were all there at the time. I do appreciate it. And I hope the one that didn't get to go has an opportunity to go, to be involved in something like this sometime. It'll change your thinking about things, folks. It'll change your thinking about folks.
One last thing I would say, and it would be not anything we done building wise. What we done is nothing special, and I hope that what seems not that significant to us, you know, you think, you know, we built a few shelves, built some benches. The being there and going there, and I said this one night when I was down there, and I told Chris, and I think everyone there agreed that night when we were sitting on that rooftop. I said, did anyone have an ounce of fear before they ever left to go? And everyone said no. And you know what? Going to strange places like that they can be, you know, you hear all kinds of stuff. You hear all kinds of fearful things. watch out for this and watch out for that. But for myself and all these people that went, it never really crossed our minds. And you know what? I guess for me, going down there that the whole time we were there, and I'm like Sally, of all the things we done, the thing that really, that Saturday, when we were with all those children, and now those pictures you seen a while ago, and it showed them there when we were doing the feeding. I'm going to say before, and there may be some pictures of it, before we ever went to that place where we fed them, when we walked out into the, I guess it'd be the village, out in the country part, it seemed like we walked a mile or so. There were a lot of children that they just came from everywhere and followed us when we went to that school. They do. They just come up and they just draw to you. And that day of going over to that school, and I shared this with some of the others, riding over there, I could not help but think about Christ's ministry when it started in around the Galilee region. When you was riding along, you seen those mountains, all the rough rocks, the scrubbiness of everything, a few trees here and there, the almost that desert type look. It made it feel like that. And when we got over there with those kids, and you heard it was numbers from, we fed 500. It was 750. And it I don't know if I shared it with y'all that night, but I thought about it. Was it not ironic that the children sat down in groups of about 25 to 50 on the grass? You know, like when he fed a multitude, and it wouldn't have mattered if they'd been 1,500 or 2,000. I bet you there'd been enough food there to feed them. But hey, that time, of course, I enjoyed all of it. You know, I wrote down here another thing. I said, even though it was hot and the water was not so good tasting, the power was limited, the shower was one pipe didn't come out of, you slept sweaty, but you know what? Man, I tell you what, I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
I wrote down a few things so that I wouldn't ramble on, because I'm sure, as all you can imagine, all of us individually could probably talk about this for days and days, because there's so much stuff that happened and so many details. But as you can imagine, I know we have a lot of teachers. The last day of school was pretty much as hectic as it would be here. But the kids came in that morning. They got there about 7. I don't think they even had to be there till 7:30. But you see in the picture they have, some of them had their uniforms on and some of them didn't. But they lined up in the courtyard and did the national anthem, or not the national anthem, but that's right. And they're all like perfect unison. It was really good and everything, and just perfect straight lines and very, behaved. And then they slid off to their classrooms. And I think the teachers were more just trying to contain them for a few hours before, they left at 12 that day. But what we did during that time was, really the day before, we got goodie bags together for the kids for their last day of school party. And this was from all the donations and everything that everybody gave. So we had like rosters for each grade, so we would have kind of age-appropriate gifts in each bag and have the right number for every classroom and everything. And after we got those fixed and everything that day, I kind of all split off and took them to each classroom. It wasn't really like a party for them necessarily. It was just they were getting this. And I guess I was asking Mom, like, what do y'all do for end of year parties? I'm not a teacher. She's like, well, we would go to McDonald's or we would get pizza and ice cream. Well, their bags and stuff that we donated, and they would have maybe some cookies in it or whatever. And we had some Kool-Aid for them when they were leaving. And that was really what they got. And they were all really appreciative of it. And you could tell when you go in the classroom, some of them would be making sure that the other one got it. They would say, well, this one doesn't have one, this one doesn't have one. So they were all very willing to share and make sure that everybody was fair and got something. And they did a lot of singing and stuff like that. You could tell we went to a kindergarten classroom just kind of observing, and they were just sitting there singing. The teacher was just kind of keeping them wrangled, and that's when I know some of y'all saw the picture I posted on Instagram or whatever of Mom. She's going to start crying when you're talking about it, but they just, anyway, they just want to touch you, and they just want to love you, and them touching her face. It was like, I told somebody today that if you wanted to see pure joy in somebody's face, you should have seen my mom's face that day, because they just pure love coming straight from them. But anyway, to get off of that, so I stopped crying. Me and Sally, I don't remember, the order of everything is kind of hard for me to remember, but we started making goodie bags for the teachers for the next day, because they were going to have their faculty party the next day. And so we were in there looking at stuff, and I'm not really sure that we were aware we were going to make teacher bags, so we were kind of scrounging for adult appropriate gifts. And we had pretty much all of the stuff ready for the ladies. Miss Sherry told us, they even like silly stuff, so we had some slap bands we threw in there and, stuff like that. But we decided that we needed like one more gift this is still the last day of school, we're handing out Kool-Aid and stuff to the kids. But we needed one more like male adult gift, so Edmund was already going to go to the grocery store the next morning to get some stuff for their party. They were going to get pâtés, which is like a meat-filled pastry, I think. We never even saw any of that. I don't know. But eat it with your hands, yeah. But anyway, so we just decided we would ride along with him to the grocery store. So we got to go on our own little adventure, with him. It was really kind of fun. But he just dropped us off on the side of the curb. And I think Sally said something like, please come back and get us. Please don't forget that we're here. And so, the grocery store was interesting because they had anything from goat head to beefaroni, really broad range of, the chicken feet and all that, everything. But so we're looking through the grocery store or whatever, and everything we're looking at just seems to be too expensive, because we're going to have to get close to 30 little items. And so we were trying to get flashlights. Well, they were going to be $4 a piece or something. And then it just hit Sally all of a sudden, and we were like, oh, wait, we have work gloves back, at the school that we brought, and some flashlights, so we could kind of do a combination of both. And so we just bought some little candies and stuff. But the whole time we were making the goodie bags, we were reminded of how it was during the tornadoes, because you would think you were out of something, and then all of a sudden it would appear. And it did that several times during that trip, and that was just one of the, for instances, when that happened. So we got back and filled finished up the bags and everything, and we set up a classroom. We put some desks together, put some tablecloths out and everything like that, and they had some of their girls made cupcakes for the teachers, and they had the pâtés, and actually had 2 cakes. I think it was a mistake in the order, but they ate it. They ate everything. So we handed out Cokes and 7-Up, and one thing that we all noticed was that they would be wrapping up and saving it and putting the lids back on their Cokes, because they would be wanting to take it home to somebody they had at home or saving it for later. And that's one thing Miss Sherry said, that they were always really good about sharing, because the people that they were going home to probably never had that kind of stuff. So, and they were all really thankful for it was just little stuff like fingernail clippers or like a random tub of soap or whatever, but things that we take for granted, that's what we put in their bags, and they probably don't, they just go buy that. It's not just a luxury that they have. So they were really thankful for all those things. I think that's probably all I have, but let me look just to make sure. Pretty much. After they couldn't have the party until the teachers got finished with their checklist, and that was kind of difficult getting them to do everything, but they finally did, and it was simple stuff like turn your bookshelf around, to face the wall. But it took a while, because we learned to be on Haitian time when we were there. Like she said, you have to be really flexible. So we had that party, and that was pretty much it. That's pretty much all I had to talk about, I guess. But we had a really good time, and like I said, we could talk for days and days about it, as you can tell. So thank you for letting us go.
Doing the bags, but the projects that we did a lot of painting, the ceilings. Me and Allison did a lot of the ceilings because of the height issue, and there was a lot of people that did the trimming. On the map, you can see that we're holding down there. It was something that they had up on the wall, and they had some missions to have come in and have painted actually on the walls
the map itself. And so that's one thing that we did, one of the projects that we did. They did portioned off 3 sections on the walls for a later project for somebody to go in and paint the maps, and that'll be in every classroom. They did it in every classroom. We helped with the teachers on their last day of school, helping them go through their books and make sure, organizing them and keeping the same ones together and putting them back on the bookshelves and then turning the bookshelves around up against the walls so they would, during the summer, things kind of kids go into the rooms, and so they did that to keep them from messing with the books after, they'd already been organized. How many classrooms did we do? How many classrooms did we paint? There was, how many downstairs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 downstairs, and then there was some upstairs that we did also. But we had started on the walls, but it was like as soon as we would paint, it would just like dry and bubble, and so we stopped doing the walls altogether and just did the ceilings. And then as the men got through with the bookshelves and bookcases and everything, then we would paint them and get them ready to be put in the rooms. And let's see, y'all did, how many did we do? There was one that they put in the men's room that was locked, that you could lock, and then one that we put in the women's room. Or was there 2 in the women's room? There was 2 in the women's room. So there was several of those kind of projects that we did. And oh, okay. The bags were what we had carried to the when we went to feed the hundreds. We also carried a lot of the donated items that we had here from the church. It had all the toiletries and had toys, and it had toothbrushes and toothpaste. And so we had I think we had 7 suitcases. Is that what we checked from the airport? 7 extra that had all of our supplies and stuff in it. And then once we got there, we had them all in one room, and we had to go through them and separate everything and then put everything in the bags. And we ended up doing, gosh, there were 3 suitcases full of fixed bags, and we did individual bags, like I guess it would have been for individual families, and each of them would have toothbrushes and toothpaste and soap and deodorant, and then we would put a bunch of toys in it, for the kids, that if they had kids in the family. And I guess is that about all? Patsy, did I take some of yours?
I was just painting. But I'll be quick. Did we get as much done as we thought we would? No, but we decided early on that we were going to celebrate what we did get done, and so we do celebrate that. The painting was hard, just like it is here. It's not an easy job, but I wanted to say that the trip on this Saturday, I think that was a really special day for all of us, but just the trip there was an adventure. I mean, I felt like I was in an Indiana Jones movie. I really, the whole time. But since Al wasn't with me, I couldn't decide who Harrison Ford was. I couldn't decide if it was Wendell, or if it was Jim, or if it was Chris, or if it was David. I don't know. But that was a really special day. But the traffic is, you have to experience it to believe it. But there was something else I was going to, I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Nikki and I, on that same trip on that Saturday, you're in the back of the pickup truck, and this was the truck that came to pick us up from the Give Us Hope. And so it was different from the blue truck. It was a little more open. It didn't have a tarp. Yeah. So we could see out a little better. And you're driving down the dirt streets with huge potholes, and just people lining the streets on both sides. And we're just looking out, and we was going slow, probably because somebody was cutting us off or whatever. But we had slowed down. But I noticed, and Nikki noticed, we noticed a young girl standing on the side of the road. She was probably 12.
Probably about 12.
It was just such a very special moment for us. She was not smiling, but she was searching our truck. Her eyes were searching. It was just a look in her eyes that I can't even really describe. But then we made eye contact, and the most beautiful smile I have ever seen in my life. It just lit up her face, and that was one of my very special moments that I tried to talk about. I was supposed to talk about painting, and that's why Sally gave me painting, because she thought I wouldn't cry. But anyway.
After listening to everybody else, I forgot what I was going to say. but I'm just talking about the medical clinic a little bit, and when I say medical clinic, it's not like one you would go to here. First of all, there's not a doctor. There's an EMT there, and you've heard his name mentioned several times, David Gunter. He retired after 20 years at the Anniston Fire Department, and he had visited Haiti several times, and I think he's been there permanently for about a year. He's living there now at the school, and he has a room, and it's not a school room. It's not that big. It looks like it might be 10 by 10 or 12 by 12, and when you first walk in, there's barely room to walk around because an exam table takes up a lot of it, and then there's a little desk that just sort of comes off the wall in a chair, and then there's some shelves with supplies all over them. And this is an EMT who's acting as a doctor. We could never get by with that here, but it's all they've got, and he is great, I have to say. And he's been an EMT, I reckon, for 20 years, and he went for some kind of special missionary crash course training on how to treat people with different symptoms. And he has a book that lines up all the different, if they have all these symptoms together, this is what it means. But he didn't use it while we were there. I mean, I think he's been doing it long enough that he doesn't have to. But all these people have. And it's not just for the school and for the orphanage, it's for the community around. More people come from the community to him for help than kids in the orphanage. And he had a little supply room off of this little office area where he treated people, and it was full of things that were donated by people who just bought it, and hospitals, and friends he's made over the years, other EMTs or doctors who will give him things that really an EMT probably shouldn't dispense, but he had all kinds of antibiotics and pain medicines and Advil and Tylenol and dressings and baby delivery kits, just all kinds of stuff that he had. Suture kits, people come in, they get, cut out in these filthy streets. And, y'all remember the little boy that came in? His foot was wide open, and he irrigated it out and sewed it up, and he just emphasized to the mother, you've got to keep him off the streets. He cannot get this dirty. But he came back a few days later, and it was wide open, full of dirt. And, this is just the kind of stuff that they deal with at this clinic. And, he tried to clean it back out and sewed it up again, but, that little boy may end up losing that foot because there's just no medical care there for them. But he is all that they have. And he said, some days he might see a half a dozen, and some days he may see 30, 35 people. But besides being the medical person, he drives the truck and repairs things and disciplines the kids. He just does everything. But that's the day that we got there. We brought that suitcase full of Tylenol. He said, the chikungunya. He said, I was almost out of Tylenol. And here you brought me more Tylenol than we could put on the shelf, which is the only thing you get for it because you just treat the symptoms. And and he not only treats the people, he also witnesses to them. He said he doesn't witness to everybody because you don't always have time. When the people are standing outside the door on the dirty concrete waiting to come in, and if there's got a line, you can't witness to everybody. But I know a couple of times, I don't speak Creole, but I felt like he was telling them about Jesus, while they were in there talking to him. So their conditions are very poor. And there's no medical care for probably most of this city of about 4 million people. So they really need a lot of help. And
he may be sending us a list of things that he needs, so we may be asking for some help for people to buy things to send. But anyway, I think that's a great ministry and something that is very much needed there. Yeah. Okay, his name's David Gunner. He's from Piedmont. He was an EMT with the Anniston Fire Department. He retired from there after 20 years. And I'm sure I think he shares his story when he comes back to churches. He went through a really tough time in his life a few years ago, and he, just fell on his knees before God and said, I need your help. You've got to help me, And he said he just felt like God said to him, okay, I'm with you. I'm going to help you. And you live the first part of your life for yourself. You're going to live the last part of your life for me. And he said that he has never been more content and happy in his life than doing what he's doing now. They're helping and serving those people. And you can tell he really loves them, because there were several young mothers who brought their children for them, and he treated them so kindly. And he speaks Creole, not really well, but well enough to communicate. And after he talked to him, he'd say, "Oh, she's such a good mama." And he was just very kind and compassionate with those people. You could tell he really had a heart for them.
Okay, I know y'all are probably getting all lengthy. So on the last one, I was going to share just with going to the DR the summer before, I had to really teach myself to slow down and be on the lookout for God. We just expect God, since He's almighty, powerful God, that He would show Himself in a mighty way, and I just didn't want to catch myself missing those moments where God comes in those quiet, tender ways. And so Haiti is a very loud and active place. And so I tried to find many ways that I saw God or heard Him. And so, of course, all over the city, you hear music. And when we got out of the airport, there was a man just sitting outside our truck, and he was playing his instrument. And even in the airport, they were playing, a band was playing. And then this picture is a little girl who lived next door, and she would come out every day, and she would stand and she would watch us. So Allie and I and a couple others, we were like, we're going to go and we're going to find out what her name is. And of course, that was hard to do because she cannot speak English and we cannot speak Creole. So we found Bubbles. And so that day I saw God in Bubbles, because we would blow bubbles back and forth to her. And those bubbles would kind of drift over to the yard beside, and there were more children there. But this little girl, we found out her name was Sheila, and that's all we knew about her. We don't even know her age, if she's even at school. But she would come out, and we would go, "Sheila!" And she would find us, and we would just wave, and that would go on all day long. She was just precious. And we eventually were able to throw gifts, some of the donated items, over to her and her brother and the children in the community there. And also, like I said, it's noisy, even at night. So we would have power from like 6 in the morning to about 2. And then they would have these solar power panels and inverters that would save as much energy. And so we would have these fans blowing at night until about 12 o'clock. And then it would be dead silent, fan-wise. Then you would hear all of Haiti come to life. We would hear roosters, which I thought roosters would come out and do their cockle-doodle-doo when the sun came up, but that starts about 3 o'clock in the morning. But before that, now, we have to get out of here. Like it's 7:15. It's pretty late. We should be leaving church right now. But in Haiti, they have services that start about 11 o'clock and they go until about 3 o'clock in the morning. And that would be about 5 doors down. And we would hear this loud and clear all night long. and it would be very unusual sounds that we would hear coming from those churches. And also we would hear dogs. Once one dog started barking, the whole city of Port-au-Prince would have their dogs barking, and this was during our time of sleep. So that was always really interesting to hear, but it was a beautiful sound. It was the sound of Haiti. It was gorgeous. And also, we saw God in smiles, and the Haitian people are loving people, and all you have to do is smile at them, and they smile right back, and you wave, and they wave, and it's just like you've made a new friend right there on the street. And then a very meaningful time was Tuesday. It was our last full day, and I finally got to go to the baby feeding program. I went to the ravine, and I was prepared because Lori prepared me for that. She tried to. Just the poverty that I was about to see. And I was kind of overwhelmed with what I saw at first. Children crying and obvious tumors, and they were sick. There was no help for them, and a little bit of food that they received, and that was probably it for the day. And just the places that they lived, very small, and the smell was overwhelming. You can't imagine just from that picture, just the smell. And this is their home, and I began to feel very sorry for them and very guilty. But there was an old lady, and she was following us through that alleyway, and she was humming, and it was beautiful humming, and it was God humming. And he reminded me that I wasn't there to feel pity for these people. I was there to be their friend. And I think we did an awesome job. We made a lot of friends, even though we never met them personally and knows their name. But I love Haiti. And I'm going back, and I'll take whoever wants to go with me. And I thank you so much for all that you did, all your prayers and your gifts, and the time that you spent with us to prepare us. It was an awesome trip, and we saw God in so many ways. So thank you for letting us go.
I wanted to say one more thing, just because I know she won't say it. I'm really glad all of our folks went, but I'm really proud of my wife. I hate when I do that. 'Cause I sound like a little girl. Like I get high. But I'm really proud of Sally for putting this together and getting us there. So y'all thank her. And now I think we're going to watch a video, and there's no gratuitous shots of me in this video, I don't think. So,
Sitting at the stoplight, can't be bothered by the heart cry written on the cardboard in her hands. Oh, but when she looks him in the eye, his heart is broken open wide, and he feels the hand of God reach out through him as heaven touches her. Kingdom come, with every act of love, Jesus help us carry you, alive in us your light shines through. With every act of love, we bring the kingdom come. There's silence at the table. He wants to talk, but he's not able, for all the shame that's locked him deep inside. Oh, but her words are the medicine when she says they can begin again, and forgiveness will set him free tonight as heaven touches us. We bring the kingdom come. Every act of love, Jesus help us carry you. Alive in us, your light shines through. With every act of love, we bring the kingdom come. God put a million doors in the world for His love to walk through. One of those doors is you. I said God put a million doors in the world for His love to walk through. One of those doors is you. We bring the kingdom come. With every act of love, Jesus help us carry you. Alive in us, your light shines through. With every act of love, we bring the kingdom. We bring the kingdom come. With every act of love, Jesus help us carry you. Alive in us, your light shines through. With every act of love, we bring the kingdom come. With every act of love, we bring the kingdom come. With every act of love, we bring the kingdom come. In the streets of every village, every city soaring tower, empty people live in darkness, every minute, every hour. Hear the cry of desperation from a billion broken hearts. With a need so great, where do we even start? Let it start with me. Open my eyes, fill my heart with your compassion, free my mind from all distractions. Use my hands to set the captive free. Move my feet to follow after you. Lord, change the world and let it start with me. You have given us the orders. There's a place for everyone. I don't want to miss my mission in the plan that you've begun. You've promised to go with me to the edges of it all, and change everything that keeps me from your call. Let it start with me. Open up my eyes, fill my heart with your compassion, free my mind from all distractions. Use my hands to set the captive free. Move my feet to follow after you. Lord, change the world and let it start with me. Take my life, all that I've called my own. Everything I am is yours alone. Let it start with me. Open up my eyes, fill my heart with your compassion, free my mind from all distractions. Use my hands to set the captive free. Move my feet to follow after you. Or change the world and let it start with me. Open up my eyes, fill my heart with your compassion, free my mind from all distraction. Use my hands to set the captive free. Move my feet to follow after you. Or change the world and let it start.
Well, as you can see, we had a good trip, and who wants to go next time? Seriously, who wants to go next time? Good, good. Well, I hope this was not, well, I'm not going to say I hope. I know this was not the first or the last time this church is going to go where Christ calls us to go. And so I encourage you, be praying about going with us, whether it's to Haiti or wherever God may call us next. I know a lot of us want to go back. And so, as Sally said when we were down there, Haiti's not that far. You don't have to wait for us to go on a trip to go. But like Nikki said, if you want to go, somebody's going to go at some time. You want to go with us. So thank you all again for just how you supported this. So many times you all could have said, no, that's not what we do. We're only about helping people here. There are many times you could have said, no, we don't really want to. They're not like us. You could have said, no, another church can do that. Bigger churches do that. Or we can pay money to send somebody else, but we're not going to go. But instead, you responded the way that Christ would have you and supported us and sent us and prayed for us as we went and while we were there. So, again, thank you from all of us. I know. Anybody else want to say anything? Now's your chance. Okay. But thank you all again so much. And as we are dismissed, I would just like to pray for us. So let's pray together. God of all nations, God who calls us with the Great Commission to go to all the corners of the earth. We are so grateful, God, that you have given us the opportunity to be a part of your kingdom's work across the world. And Lord, tonight, as we have witnessed only a small portion of what you have blessed us with the ability to do, God, I pray that you are speaking to our hearts, our minds, to answer your call, to go again, to go farther, to go, Lord, wherever it is you may call us to go, to realize that your kingdom is bigger than any boundary we may put on it. God, to realize that you call us to the corners of the earth and that when we get there, it's not that much different. And that you call us to be your witnesses. And, Lord, to use our hands, our feet, our mouths, our minds, all of our being. So, Lord, go with us from this place tonight. Having inspired us, may your Holy Spirit continue to go with us, calling us to be the change that you desire for this world. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.